Hi, I'm here with Slash Coleman, author of new book, The Bohemian Love Diaries, and also performing in a one-man show coming up on Theater Row this weekend, which I'll let him tell us all about.
Yeah, it's called The Bohemian Love Diaries, and it's based on my book, my memoir that came out in July of this year, called The Bohemian Love Diaries as well. And it's interesting. I make my living as a professional storyteller, and these stories were created through the oral tradition, and then they went into book form. And when I originally gave them to the publisher, he was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, they're great. I perform them on stage. People laugh. They like cry." And he's like, "It doesn't work in the book. So you got to go back into your book and become a writer." And so we recreated them for the book. And now to bring them back on stage, I had to like extract the writing to make them come alive on stage because it's almost like a different process, right? And so now them coming back out, it's like almost going back to the original form. And 8 years of working on this book, in a room alone, like writing, and then the book comes out, and then I don't traditionally do readings; I do performances of the work, and then to have the work exist orally, and then in the written word, and then back to orally, and then I had to also I had to record the audiobook, which was like 17 hours alone in a room, in a studio room at the studio, and that was like a total like mind blowing experience. It was like having therapy, right? So because there's no audience interaction there, you're just like in alone with a sound person that says you mispronounced that word, please say it again. I'm like, oh crap.
And
So
when you did the audiobook, was it from the text in the book, or was it as a storyteller?
yeah, so it was through audible.com, the largest audiobook company. And so I was like, can you get someone famous to read the book if you have the budget for it? Because evidently I didn't know this at the time, but if you get these famous voiceover artists, everyone runs out to buy their book because they're huge fans of these voiceover artists. So they didn't have the budget to bring in someone like that, so I had to audition to read my own book. And it was interesting because I attempted to read the words. I had to read the words from the book. That's basically the script that they gave me, which is different when I perform the pieces. And there were some parts in there that there are songs that I sang, and we had to go back in and re-edit all that out. I didn't know you can't sing a song on your audiobook because it's like we would have had to pay like a gazillion dollars because it's copyright infringement and
Right.
stuff like that. So
Right.
this whole process of taking my work and actually putting it in book form is really kind of I'm learning a lot. Especially in the publicity of it and the marketing of it and how traditional books are put out there. So,
Can you tell me about what led you to the idea of becoming a storyteller originally?
yeah. Well, on one side of my family, there was this huge amount of silence. My mom's a Holocaust survivor, and then my grandparents are too. And so whenever I wanted to find out information about them, there was just all this silence. And from the beginning, I had these questions because there's one of the only photographs that survived my mom's childhood. My mom is in my grandfather's arms. He was a dancer at the Moulin Rouge, and my grandfather's this long jet black hair down past his belt line, and they're standing beside Marcel Marceau, who was their friend, and he's standing beside my grandmother, who was the cousin of the Hollywood starlet Ingrid Bergman, and she's holding my uncle Michel Claude's hand, and they're standing beside Django Reinhardt, and they're in the kitchen at the Moulin Rouge. And when I had these questions about who these people were, because the only grandfather I knew was this bald-headed guy with a belly like a robin who was silent all the time, and I didn't know him to be this creative person who was in the epicenter of creativity. The Moulin Rouge right before the war was like where it was all going down. And I knew my grandparents just to be very quiet, and I knew something that happened, but no one would talk to it. And every year, I would get together with the cousins on the Jewish side of my family, and we'd be like, "Did you get any information?" And we would piece together this information. But on the other side, my father's side, they're Sicilian, and we would sit around these tables, these big dinners on Sunday night, and I would listen to my father, my uncle, my grandfather tell stories, and so I always kind of emulated them. To me, they're like my storytelling mentors. They would never take money for it. They're the kind of person that they can go to a gas station or a wedding, and they just launch into a story, and the room is completely silent, and they're able to create literary craft elements and a story arc, a beginning, middle, end, and they just do it because it comes naturally. It takes me like hours upon hours to create this piece for the stage that just comes to them naturally. And so I use my father's gifts that he had to draw out the stories for my mother. So I really had this need to to feel like I had a connection to others
Nice.
through the stories. So
That's nice.
yeah.
So your play, your one-man show is happening This weekend?
It happens this Saturday, 6 o'clock at United Solo Festival. There's over 100. This is the fourth year that the United Solo Festival is going on. It's a pretty prestigious New York solo festival for solo performers. And I'm under the category of storytelling. They have like theater and stuff like that
And
there.
the book is called?
The book is called The Bohemian Love Diaries.
And who's it being published by?
It's Lions Press. It came out, yeah.
Great. Thank
So,
you very much.
Yeah.
Awesome.